trying to not have my phone fall. I am trying a live line here again, and I'm going to just keep doing it until people catch on. I'm used to having like 8,000 followers watch, and so it's really intimidating that I haven't built that up yet on here. But I invited my TikTok family, but I'm assuming people are at work, and I'm struggling to do it at nighttime. But I will be trying to continue. The thing I really like about YouTube is the lives stay. Like you don't have to, download it and try to repost it or anything. It just is here as a post. So today we're going to be talking about self-care, but we're going to be talking about it through a different lens. And I was looking for my lip gloss and I can't find it. I'm sitting here doing my makeup. So I did a little post last night after I got really frustrated trying to go live about 3 times. What it's doing to me is not allowing me to have a chat. Like, it's a subscriber only commenting live, and I don't have it on that setting, so I don't know why it's doing that. But I really hope some people join because I have some really different kind of thoughts around self-care. And I saw on YouTube a lot of people typing in looking for things. It's about self-care. So I wanted to research it, even though it's very self-explanatory. But the definition kind of threw me. And so I had my own thoughts. And I would love to see what you guys think of those thoughts. And I would love it if we could have a discussion. But I think I'm going to have to just kind of manage going live in front of no one for a while until my people move over here. It's just so intimidating when you're used to seeing, hearts flying up everywhere and 2,000 likes in 5 minutes. But I've been doing that for years, so I get it. It takes a while to build up. I wish my people from YouTube would come over. I know a lot have. And I know a lot have asked me how and don't really quite understand YouTube. So it's just going to be a matter of time. So I'm going to finish putting my makeup on. And once this is finished, this live, it'll be in my playlist on here under lives. And I will open that up again, the replay, for discussion, since there's not people here. It's so disappointing too, man. Like, I'm making money on TikTok, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, for the last maybe 2 weeks, I can't go live. So it's disappointing. But it's okay. We'll just do it like we did it before. Start talking and wait for people to show. So self-care. Apparently that is something a lot of people are researching right now, like I said. So one of the top searches on YouTube for kind of the topics that I talk about and just the way my channels are is what is self-care and why is it important? And so I put that into my phone. And what is self-care and why is it important? So Google's definition is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being, happiness, in particular during periods of stress. Again, that's Google. So one thing that bothered me first was it said, in particularly during periods of stress. Well, if you don't have a self care routine or even have thoughts of self care, when you're going through trauma or tragedy or stress, you're not going to be like, oh, it's time for my self care. You're going to be spinning, you know. So if you're going to be someone who is interested in doing self care, I suggest you get into a habit of doing it even when things are good, so that when they're not good, it's a natural thought. Or even writing down your self care plan, um, and having it somewhere where you can see it very easily when things strike, you know. Um, I just, self care in my mind should not be only for people who are suffering or when they're suffering. And then tell me the truth, you know, what do you think of when you think of self care? Like, as a woman, at least, let me know at what you think of when you think of self care. I think of, I'm trying to think of what people would say, you know, a hot bath, with candles in a dim lit bathroom with no interruptions, right? Husband's watching the kiddos or whatever. Kiddos are at grandma's. I hear that a lot. Um, Going on a walk, enjoying nature, you know. Let me think of some other ones. One of my self-care things at work, we had to have, like, it was more of a safety plan because we worked with we worked trauma informed with clients who were unsafe, and so it would get really heavy, and we had to have what we called a safety plan, and we had it on a lanyard around our neck so we never forgot. And if things got really intense with clients, we could pick one of the 5 things on our safety plan slash self-care plan and go do them. And one of mine was go smoke a cigarette. And so what that does is my mind mentally, it calms me, but it raises my heart rate. It's not good for me. It's all the things we know. So how is smoking a cigarette self-care? But it's considered self-care. And so is going on a walk, and so is going outside and grounding and earthing, and I love doing that. And I'm not downing these ways. I'm not downing them. I hope you guys can hear me. I have no one here to tell me. Um, I could get my microphone's here plugged in, but I don't know if you can hear me fine. Maybe I should yell. I don't fucking know. But I don't know. I don't know what time out for me personally does. And going on a walk alone, yeah, you know, I get maybe a little bit out of my head if I'm thinking, you know, seeing things that are in nature that are enjoyable and, you know, thinking about that. But for the most part, if you're really struggling and your mind is racing because of whatever tragedy might have happened, um, taking a bath isn't gonna quiet your mind, you know. And to me, if you need self-care, you need a quiet mind, because if you don't have a quiet mind, your mind is still racing about the problems, right? So I mean, self-care, so I wrote down a bunch of pages, so I'll kind of be reading a little bit and then I'll also be just talking. Self-care is pretty self-explanatory. However, I know we would be surprised at what low percentage of people actually do real self-care. So if people were on here, I would be asking you to put in the comments what you would think without knowing, you know, what other people think about it, what you would take the phrase self-care as. So is it just caring for yourself when you're going through trauma, or is self-care something you do on a daily basis as like an upkeep for your own well-being? And not to say there can't be several different kinds of self-care. but it seems to be a pretty generalized thing. Um, Referring to the definition, oh, I already said that. It should be an absolute, a constant in our lives. However, we choose to look at self care or or act on it, it shouldn't be like, oh, my daughter just died. Let me go take a hot bath. You know, it's just that seems silly to me. But also, I have to acknowledge that there's different levels of trauma and different levels of stress. You know, a lot of people I think that are on the self care train are working 9 to 5. They're stressed the fuck out. You know, they want to be more woke and living a different kind of life. And awakening isn't easy because our world is built upon zero self care, you know, slavery to the government, and just it's sick. You know, it's sick. We waste our lives working around the clock, not spending time with our children, and hardly get a retirement. Don't get a retire till we're like fucking 90 years old. And there's literally no enjoyment of life. So when tragedy does strike, it's fucking gnarly because there's not a lot of enjoyment these days. It's scary out there. There's wars going on. There's the earth is dying. The food we eat is poisoning us. Um, you know, there's a lot of stress, a lot. Um, so where I'm going with this is self-care to me should be, for me, what works for me is looking outward. And it's like the opposite of most of people's suggestions for a lot of things, you know, to learn to meditate. um to learn to meditate, you need to go within. You know, you need to get rid of thoughts, you need to still your mind, all those kinds of things. um to become awoke and focus on who you are, you need to still your mind, look inward, and you try to get rid of your thoughts. You try to just have your eyes closed and feel what your body is telling you. And so this is kind of the opposite of that. And you know, I've had several different awakenings. um and it did take me going inward. I do not believe you can have an awakening unless you know who you are inside. And you can't know that unless you meditate and spend time with yourself and trying to make sure your thoughts are not getting in your own way. So it is literally picking up on vibes and vibrations by your body, by the way your body is reacting, behaving, and feeling. Um, and it took me a long time. It did. It took, because I have so much fucking trauma. You know, I've had a racing mind my whole life, that I could, my whole remembered life. And so for me to sit down and learn how to still everything, still my mind, no racing thoughts, no intrusive thoughts, and have it be black because my eyes are closed and silent without any of my own thoughts, seemed an impossible task. But I got it. You know, I got it, and it's because I needed it and I wanted it so much. Um, and so self-care, in my opinion, is kind of the opposite. So some of the things when I looked at self-care said, it's all about me, take care of me, love me first, you know, all the things. Which, okay, you know, I can get down with that. We do need to love ourselves. We do. That's our foundation, right? Our core, our spirit. We need to appreciate ourselves. We need to show ourselves love our bodies, our mind, our spirit, all the things. So that's not necessarily wrong. But if I'm going to have true self care, it's going to be because I'm looking at other people and I'm keeping myself well by doing for others. I taking a hot bath doesn't make me feel better. It doesn't change my perspective. It doesn't get me out of my head. So it's kind of like depression. Depression is a selfish mental disorder. And now let me clarify before you get upset. It's not intentionally selfish. You're not a selfish bitch because you have depression. And I just got out of depression, so I totally understand depression. But I can feel that selfish part of it. And it is you're so sad and you're so down that you focus so hard on how you make yourself happy that it comes off as selfish. You know, if someone didn't know you were depressed, but you're always just, you know, looking out for number one because you need to, it appears to others as you're a selfish person. But you're not. You're depressed. It's okay. I'm not saying you are selfish. I'm just saying what can come from it, you know? And that's with borderline. That's with a lot of things. And I've found myself in those positions, you know, like, holy shit. I've been talking about myself and my fears and my trauma for like 3 weeks. Like, Randon's gonna lose his mind, you know? And I wasn't trying to be selfish, but I was desperate to feel better. And so that's just kind of how it works. So to think of self-care and then to think of looking outward, I think a lot of people would say is backwards, because self-care is self-care, right? Well, in order for me to be balanced and feel good inside internally and feel like everything's flowing, I have to, yes, know myself, but I have to do things for other people. I have to remember where I came from. I have to think that, okay, take a step back, Missy. Are you the only one in the world suffering right now? The answer is no. Are there people suffering less than you? Yes. Are there people suffering more than you? Absolutely. Are there people who are experiencing the same types of things as you? Yes. Okay. So then when I think of it that way, and I'm struggling, going and getting in my nice big warm hot whatever bathtub with bubbles and rose petals feels selfish to me. And like I said, this is just me. And this is just me trying to get you guys to look through things through different lenses. I try really hard not to just, okay, this is the definition, I accept it. You know, I try to think outside of the box, and I try to think of, you know, just other points of view. Because that's the whole purpose, I think, in us being here as human, is to understand on things on so many different levels that we have the knowledge to not go against our own selves. So morally, if I don't forget where I came from, which is the streets, junkie with a needle in my arm, sorry, trigger warning, if I forget that, I can easily think self-care is, you know, all about me. But really, I'm going against my own moral code by doing that. And that's why self-care never felt good to me, and why I never went really hard on it or went really delved into it. Because what goes with my moral code and goes along with who I am and how I feel is thinking about all the people who are still suffering, who are still out there on the streets, who are still being victimized, who are still being abused, who are still being trafficked, who are just fucking lost, whatever, you know, having a hard time, having a hard life. And so my self-care is to do something for someone else, you know, and that can look like so many things. It can look like going and visiting your grandparents who are very lonely. It can look like calling your mom and having a conversation not about yourself and your problems, but asking how she is and listening and letting her talk. You know, it's that person on the sidewalk with a sign. You know, whether you feel like giving them money or not, that's your business, but I want to warn you, and that's a big part of this talk, is to not judge. People don't want to give money to the houseless because they're just going to go buy drugs with it, right? Well, that's none of your fucking business. What is your business is if you're a kind, giving, generous person and love people, if you're a humanitarian. And people who judge like that, I mean, they suck. They suck. You know, so something that, so like my daughter Holly, I'll use an example. It was her birthday, like she was maybe 16, and she received money from several different people in our family, and I was making really good money at the time, and she wanted to go to the store and go shopping, and the girl, my Holly, 16 years old, after so much trauma, she went and bought a tent and some food and drinks, and I don't remember all what else, maybe some clothes, blankets, and walked right out of the store and handed it all to a houseless man that was sitting outside the store. I was in tears. But that, you know, at 16 and going through all the trauma, you know, I hadn't taught her a lot of morals. I didn't have any at the time. I had them, but they weren't up front and center. You know, that's what she needed to do to keep herself centered. You know, and I could tell she needed to do something for someone who didn't have what she had to make herself feel centered. And so that to me is self-care. You're caring about yourself by doing what your heart knows is the right thing to do, right? So it's just another way of looking at it. Like I said, taking your hot bath and all those things is not wrong at all. But if you want to look at it from this lens, I think it's a cool way to look at it, because it's like smoking for me. You know, I'm trying to be happy. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get through my grief. And I need to quit smoking, and I want to, but I'm not. And so I'm not fully aligned because I'm going against my own moral code. I'm doing something I don't agree with, you know? And so for whatever Holly's reasoning was that year, her needs, to meet her own needs and to give herself self-care, she needed to do something for someone else. And it's funny because I've never really thought about it in this light. I just thought, you know, that was awesome, Holly. You're a fucking rock star, you know, being a teen and doing something like that with money, you know, like teenagers and money. Like, you're a fucking rock star, kid. Like, I'm so proud of you. And she was so proud of herself. You know, she felt so good. She felt really good about herself. And now, and that is taking care of yourself. Flowing with your moral code. Flowing with what you know is right. So every time you judge someone, every time you know, forget where you came from, if you came from, you know, not the best place, every time you know, get a raise or a bonus or whatever it is, do you think about generosity, or do you think about what you need? Because there's going to be a huge difference in how you feel if you go buy a big screen TV, you know, huge one like mine, or like, oh, it's Colette's, but you know, it's bigger than me. And if I went and did that, yeah, it'd be cool, it'd be fun. But if I went and did that, and then I also went and did something for someone who I know needed something, then I would be balanced and I wouldn't be going against my own moral code. And I would be having self care, right? So, self care to me is looking outward and inward. You got to remember where you came from. You got to remember your morals and your thoughts and your ideas. But it just doesn't sit with me right that self-care is taking time out of your day away from your family, you know, whatever, to just have some quiet time. To me, you know, I do that. I don't take hot baths. My bones stick out and it's very fucking painful to lay in the bathtub. But, you know, I will ask Randon, you know, I need a break. You know, I'm a full-time mom. I just need a break. Can I go outside for a minute, you know? That to me is just taking a break and a breather and, you know, calming yourself, which essentially is taking care of yourself too. But to me, true self-care is you're going to be working on your chakras. You're going to be doing work on the inside. You're going to be learning your biology so that you can learn how to take care of your body, mind, and spirit, all of it. That is real self-care. That is how you're going to get there. That's how you're going to feel good after your time of self-care. You know, I've done self-care where, you know, because at our work when I was an advocate, you know, we were big on that because there was so much vicarious trauma. But after I would go do whatever it was, I think shopping I put, so I'd, you know, take a extra long lunch or take a day off, a self-care day, and go shopping and do all these things that I had written that would make me feel better. But it didn't. It didn't make me feel better. You know, in the moment, I might have got a high off of picking things out that I wanted, but there's clothes in my closet with tags in it. That's pathetic. You know, so going shopping for self-care, for actual self-care, that to me doesn't fit because we're trying to get away from the way society has made society, right? Which is distractions, shopping, malls, big, beautiful, bright lights, all the things, credit cards, fucking bullshit stuff. So if we're using the very things we don't agree with, working our asses off just to survive and maybe get a new pair of jeans or, you know, that pair of kicks you wanted or whatever, we're still giving in to what we don't agree with. And this is more for if you're woke, you know, when you become woke, your whole outlook changes. You know, I was born in 77, and I think people born in the 60s are a little bit more human thinking than late the 70s and on. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me, but you know, there are people out there right now still living their lives the way I thought life was lived when I was like in junior high. You know, you get up, you make your bed, you put on your makeup, you fix your hair, you think about all of the things, you know, your outfit was picked out the night before, and you go to school, you do what you're doing, you get home, you do your homework. And then when you're a grown up, You find your partner, you get married, you have babies, and you have a family. And that's the way the government keeps us where they want us. You know, we don't even own our own children. They have birth certificates with numbers on them. They're a number. You know, um, but that was the norm. That was the societal norm, right? So if you are not woke, that's your norm right now. Going to work, making that paycheck, you know, making that perfect dinner, setting the table, sitting with your family. These things are great. Some of them are. You know, the working and not making it, even most people can't make it with a 2 income household these days. So it's just stress. You're going to work to be fucking stressed, to have not enough money, to be fucking stressed about not paying your full bill that's due. Like every fucking month. You know, so when you want to get out of that rat race is when you will have an awakening. When your mind starts thinking, this is not, this literally cannot be what I'm here for. And mine started thinking that way when my first child died. It's like, what the fuck am I here for? You know, why am I a person? Why am I alive? Why was I born? Who am I? You know, all the things. Um and and so, you know, I thought that way for a long time, and it bothered me. You know, it really really bothered me because I do have borderline. I can make it go away though with my chakras, but um I have borderline, and I still didn't feel right about the way life was lived. You know, it just, I'm trying to find my words. None of it made sense to me. I was confused as a child. I was confused as a young adult. I'm less confused today, you know, these days. More sad and grieving. But it didn't feel right. Okay, so I got pregnant early, and we, you know, I was talking to Brandon the other night and talking about that story of meeting my husband, and you know, I was a teenager, he was 25, 20, I don't know, I don't remember, but older. I think 11 years older. And when I got pregnant, I don't know that we even fucking talked about it. We just flew home and got married because it was what we do, you know? And then I left him when my oldest daughter was 4, and that's damaging to the kids. So then I start thinking, why are all these normal things that people do don't feel good? Why doesn't it feel right? You know, it's like I felt like a robot. Oh, okay. I'm pregnant. I'm 16. Um we're going to go get married now because that's what people do. And then after she was born, we started going to church because that's what people do when they're married and have kids. That's what my family did. That's what his family did. So with no thought, we just began to follow in what we absolutely fucking despised as children. And so my way of thinking has always been a little bit different. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this self-care thing, because I don't think you can really have self-care unless you're thinking about other people, and your alignment is right as far as putting others before yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you're only doing unto yourself because of all your stress, and you don't have the imagination or the forethought to think about people's other people having stress and problems, then how are you taking care of yourself? Like, you might be taking care of your instant gratification need, But if you're not in it for all of us, for our species, for our human race, then how is that self-care? How can you even love yourself if you are one who judges and, like those channels that are literally just videoing people strung out on drugs and laughing, and every millions of comments making fun of them. It makes me want to cry. It makes me sick to my fucking stomach. Like, what is that person who has that channel getting out of that? And I'm gonna guess that person does self-care. So do you see? I feel like I'm not saying a lot of this right. And it's because I'm really thrown off that I'm doing a live in front of no one. You guys got to come to YouTube, please. It was so fun talking and discussing and getting different opinions. I want different points of view. I want people to say, well, wait, think about it this way too. And that's why I'm so mad at TikTok right now, because I have that built there. But again, the really cool thing is this will still be on my channel forever, like all my other ones, and there will be an open discussion continuing. So it's better as long as you guys come. But so to me, that's misery. Someone who has an account that is literally just to make fun of humans, not just making fun of humans who are suffering. I mean, suffering. There are so many humans born into drugs and trafficking, and those people standing on the sidewalk, doing the movements and whatever it is. It's sad. It's sad. It's not funny. And that's just one example. But I think what's hard for my mind to register now that I've said so many things, people are out there judging, not even to that extreme, even walking down the street, oh, look at that bitch, but then they get stressed out and they want to know about self-care. And that doesn't sit well with me. Self-care is loving yourself enough to know that there's a billion other humans here that need love and help too. And so for me, my self-care is thinking about other people and doing something for someone else. When I've been at my lowest points, if I make an effort to go visit my grandparents or call a friend who I haven't talked to in a long time, and I know they're wondering if I'm okay, and it's been hard for me to do in my grief. But once I do that, I feel like I just did so much self-care because I'm not going against my moral code. I'm doing something that I should be doing every fucking day. So to me, the ultimate self-care is do unto others as you would have them do to you. Because you're never going to feel bad about yourself for being kind to someone else. Ever. But I think that if you're having a bad fucking day and your self-care regimen is to go take a hot bath, I don't know how that hot bath stops the stress. And when you get back out, the stress is still there, correct? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it can take it away for some people. It cannot for me. And like I said, I'm not saying it's wrong to do. I'm just explaining my lens, my view. What gives me joy and what brings me out of my own victim mentality, which is self-care, is doing something for someone else. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Yeah, you know, self-care is such a big thing right now. Like I said, it's one of the top searched things on social media platforms, and it's like people are searching for anything to make them feel better, and or to de-stress, or to, you know, whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll never attain it. You'll never get to where you want unless you are internally happy with yourself and following your own morals, and you know your purpose and all the things. And I couldn't have had this talk until I had, you know, at least a couple of awakenings. And I see the world differently than people who are still sleeping. You know, I understand a lot more. It helps me with my grief. Um, what we see in front of us is not what there is. There's a lot more. We're conditioned. We're conditioned when we're children. And even as adults, like in an abusive relationship, that 7 years I spent with Damien, I mean, I'm still conditioned from that. I still have thoughts of, you know, you're an ugly, skinny bitch. No one's ever going to love you. You know, that still runs through my head. That's conditioning. And we're conditioned at a very young age. And if you're not conditioned to put others before yourself, or to align your own beliefs, make sure you're following them, you know, being grounded and all those things, then you are going to be my age, working 9 to 5, freaking out, going to the grocery store, trying to make it home, to give the kids a bath, to get them ready for bed, to do this, to read them a book, to do their homework, to get them to bed, to wake them up in the morning and start all over. And you're going to always be looking for self-care. I need to take a fucking hot bath. I'm stressed. You know, and the ultimate self-care is waking up, you guys. It's waking up. I just lost my best friend in the world. And yeah, there's really hard, heavy times. But when I'm able to come up and peek up out of that, being woke is what has kept me from killing myself, honestly. Because I understand the way the world works, or the way the world should work. And I understand the corruption and the power and the hunger for money, and the, you know, just greedy human nature. And I understand it. And I understand what's going to change that. And it's us. It's us. It's us sharing that love. It's us sharing by example. It's us showing and talking about, you know, people, a lot of people think people who are going through awakenings and, you know, doing all this spiritual work are crazy. But I'm telling you, it is the truth. You know, I'm such an empath, and I'm not saying you know, I can read minds or anything, but I can read energy, and I can feel it more. I can't read it, I can feel it thick. Like, I can feel energy so thick I'll run if the wrong kind of energy. Um Hold on. I actually forgot what I was saying, and since there's nobody here, nobody can tell me. People who are woke, you know, we see what's important, you know, and that's humans, other humans, whether they're on drugs, whether you agree with their lifestyle, whether anything, they're humans. And you look at people differently, because when you wake, you see that we are all one. When you are looking in the eyes of your best friend, or your partner, or your parents, or your whoever, you can see yourself. And I would suggest that you try. You know, my partner and I do this. It's called something. I'll have to look it up. But we sit in front of each other, and we just look deep into each other's eyes, without talking, without laughing. You know, we just look into each other's eyes, And it is so intense because if you actually do it for, not just a few seconds, but I'm talking a half hour, hour, there is so much information being passed from my eyes to his eyes to mine. Like that's why they say your eyes are the window to your soul, because you really can know someone by looking them directly in the eyes. And yeah, you should definitely try that, because that's what being woke is understanding the human experience, understanding our biology. If we understand our biology, I've said it before, we understand the whole universe. I don't know if I should get into that on this one because I've been talking for a while now, but self-care is self-love. Self-love is loving everybody, because the law of one. So for me, self-care is making myself feel like I'm contributing, like I'm making someone who's hurting feel better, even if it's just a smile or a compliment. Um, it's putting myself in other people's shoes. It's experiencing their experiences the way I can, looking in their eyes, reading their pain, reading their happiness, reading whatever. I mean, if I were to do this the whole time in good lighting, and you were to just look straight into my eyes, I bet you could tell me a lot about myself. In fact, I know you could. If you're a complete stranger to me, we would have to do it for quite a while. But you would be surprised at how much you can get out of that and how exhausting it is. Like when and all you're doing is sitting, but it's so exhausting because of how much you can see through each other's eyes. You just want to pass out when you're done. But my partner had an experience where he did it to me, and he just kept saying, "Oh my God," like, "Oh my God." It was like he was watching a movie, he felt like. And all I was doing was looking at him. It's not trying to have any expression, just letting him see my eyes. And it hurt him, it hurt him. And then it hurt me. And you can also do it looking at your own eyes in the mirror, and I'll tell you right now, it's harder. It's harder to face yourself. But once you do, once you face yourself and you get to your core and you know who you are and what you stand for and what you believe in and what's right and what's not right and how the world turned weird. And it's not like it hasn't before. They used to do horrible things, and we still do. It's just we turn our heads because with internet, TV, and all the things, phones, we were taught how to be distracted from things we didn't enjoy. Who enjoys watching other people die in wars? Nobody enjoys it. Well, there's some people that enjoy it, that are doing it, but so we've learned and we've been conditioned to turn away from it, to be distracted from our own potential, our own reality, our own reality. And so we're doing things like little bits of self-care because we're stressed out, and I'm sorry to say it like that, but it's time to wake up. Look at what's happening in the world. If we're going out, I'm going out loving and giving and helping anyone I can along the way. I'm not going out doing a self-care regimen, a face mask, nails, whatever. That's not how I'm going out. So that says something right there. What are you going to do if tomorrow is the last day on earth? A lot of people would probably say, things for themselves. But I know, and I have faith, and I have to believe that most people would say they would do something for someone they love, whether it's time, you know, whatever. They would think outside of themselves because they already know themselves. They're already woke, right? I already know how my body works. I already know my soul. I already know I'm a spirit. I already know who I am. So I don't have to search for feeling better by having little regimens of self-care. I have to do what I already know is better, and that is helping one another, loving one another, helping one another, giving to one another, sharing with one another. Does that make sense, you guys? Does it make sense? I know it does sound like I'm putting it down, and maybe I am, but I've had so many different levels of awakenings that it's very difficult for me to have like a conversation with someone who is 100% just one human, one time, and then they die and they go to heaven or they go to hell, and you know, there's nothing else but that program running 24 hours a day in their minds. How can you even have a discussion with someone that is that programmed? And if you are programmed, which everybody is, but if you haven't figured out how to unprogram or undo your conditioning, let me know, because I can help you. And I don't mean coach you for money. I can make videos on how to begin to do real self-care. Real self-care, which is following your own intuition, loving humankind, animals, nature, and making someone's day just a little bit better. We all know life is so hard. You know, I buried Colette around, man. But I'm trying really hard to stay up. You know, I realize I'm going to miss her for the rest of my life. I realize she won't be my daughter again. But I also realize I won't be Missy again. You know, I've been probably a million different things. And so has she. And she fulfilled her contract. And I have to be thankful for that. You know, I'm so fucking thankful that I was her mom, that I got to be her mom, because I learned so much from her. And she was so amazing. And she brought such a beautiful little girl into this world. You know, so yeah, you know, it took me out. It almost took me down. You know, I almost put myself in the hospital. But we're here to learn lessons. We're here to love each other, to give love. And then we're not here when it's time to not be here. And then we move on. And she is me. You know, I have to remember that. She is me. And I will see her again someday, but it won't be the way I was brought up, you know, up in heaven, and we'll all have this great reunion and all the things. I'll see her again someday as me, as source, as one. And, you know, that is hard. That is hard for me. But I know it to be true. And so I can accept it. I can completely accept it. You know, I'll never see her again as Colette being Missy's daughter. But she's fulfilled her soul contract. She's fulfilled her purpose. And she's moving on to her next one. Or she's done. I don't know. But if you can look at it that way, like going off on this tangent of grief, it's helpful. It is helpful. And she did a lot of things in this lifetime to help, especially me. She spent her whole life helping me. And it's a lot of what damaged her. But that was what she signed up to do. And I'm so grateful for her. I'm so grateful for her. I don't know if I would have made it through my abuse without her. But I went way off subject. Self-care is taking care of others, being a humanitarian, loving other people, seeing the real picture. You can't have real self-care at all, I don't think, if you're not woke, because it's all just surface. Oh, I had a bad day at the office, I'm gonna go get a manicure to feel better. What's that gonna do? What's that gonna do for your purpose in life? It's fun. It's fun. It is. I have fake nails, the cheap ones, but it's not self-care or self-preservation. What did it say? The practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being, happiness, in particular during periods of stress. So if I'm having periods of stress, which I'm always having periods of stress, the only way I'm going to feel better, and I know this from a lot of experience, is to make someone else feel better. I might feel good right now that I just put these nails on and they look pretty, but it's not self-care. It's something materialistic to do. It's part of my programming that I haven't been able to let go of yet, and it's hard. There's only so much you can do with the way the world is set up. But you can for damn sure be nice to other people. And you can for sure not forget where you came from. And if you didn't come from a hard life like a lot of us, and you were privileged enough to be born into a family that no trauma happened, maybe small little things, whatever, but you always felt safe, you always, you didn't need whatever, then good for you. But it may be very hard for you to imagine, like, the depth of some people's pain. And I'm telling you what, being an advocate for 5-6 years, I saw things that puts my trauma, which is burying 3 children, like it's nothing. So there's some serious evil shit out there. And that's another reason I say don't judge. Because what were you before this life? Who were you? You were a lot of different things. And I promise you, every one of them wasn't a good person. I've thought about that so much with it's not just me, it's my family. My aunt lost all of her children, one at 3, one at 16, and then her husband. I lost 3 children. My sister lost her husband. My other sister lost her husband. My dad watched his 16-year-old cousin die. My dad watched his grandpa kill himself. My mom's grandma killed herself. I mean, our family there's something, but there's still worse. There's worse than watching your children die. I promise you there is. And I won't make it if I don't follow my own knowing, my own waking up, my own knowledge, and my own soul by helping other people. And that can be a phone call, like I said. I'm not saying go, whatever. Do whatever. Just think outside the box for a minute. This life, this world is not centered around just you, but it is in the sense of we're all one. But you have to have that attitude that everybody is included in that. You know, you're not the one spirit having a human experience that matters. Every one soul and spirit matters. We are all part of Source. He loves, you know, we're all part of Source. So you have to just remember that. You know, when you don't like someone, or you get mad at someone, or they do something that pisses you off, and or it's just a continuous, you know, not good relationship, but you have to have it because you work with them or whatever it is. You don't like them, they rub you the wrong way. I'll tell you, because they're the same as you. They remind you of you, and something about them is also something about you, and you don't like it about yourself. So you get to portray it onto this other person. Right? I think about that a lot. You know, I've had people murder my children. And so I'll tell you what's hard is looking at those people and thinking that knowing that we're the same. And that's why I don't judge. Because I've probably been there. I know I've been there. You know, we've all lived so many different lives in so many different ways. You can't tell me that all of someone's lives, all of the hundreds, thousands, millions of times they've gone around the sun, they were upstanding citizens. Don't judge. There's evil coming. There's evil happening. You know, and you could have been in the middle of that a few lifetimes ago. You could have been that a couple lifetimes ago. You know, for all I know, I was Hitler. And that's why I signed up to have this much pain and punishment. And that also, as fucked up as that sounds, it helps me to accept what I'm living. You know, maybe I did really horrible things. We sign our own contracts. Nobody makes us. So I wanted or needed to have these experiences of tremendous pain for some reason. For some reason. So if you don't forget that, you know, you can start becoming conscious of judgment. And most people judge like every thought is a judgment. Our home, it's not where we're from, it's not who we are. It's the human corruption and the chaos that humans have to have that took over. And our conditioning. And then our sickness, as the world got sicker, as the food got more poisonous, as the air got more poisonous to breathe, as the water got sicker to drink, as this, as that, as this, as that, as this, as that. We're changing. We're evolving, you know, and I want to say we're evolving into having this great awakening, and things are going to get better. And anything's possible. But, you know, we're going through some really heavy shit in this world right now. And I would love to help you see things through a different lens. Because if your life still consists of getting off by getting new clothes, ordering online, you know, having all the nice things, having the best job, you know, all the things, and you don't interact with nature, you don't appreciate nature, you don't interact with animals or appreciate animals or even appreciate humans, you're just going to come back. You're just going to come back again. And as what? You know, I don't know. You'll know, but you'll forget when you're born. or maybe later. Jill remembered until she was about 6. But it's also why they say when you're woke, living a bad life versus living a good life is really indifferent, because if you missed the lessons in the life you're living, you just coming back to learn them, to relearn them, or see if you can learn them the next time around. I look for them everywhere I go, and that's why I pay attention to angel signs, because they really do fit. Like, if I see one certain angel sign over and over again, and I go look at the meaning, it's like, holy shit, all right, you got my attention, higher self, thank you. And one thing I did want to tell you guys, this is still about self-care. It's just self-care through a different lens of being awoke. A good way to learn to become more conscious more often is to set your alarm every hour on your phone. And every time your alarm goes off, ask yourself, am I conscious right now, or am I on autopilot? So every day, 95% of our thoughts, actions, behaviors, and everything are the same as the day before. So think about that for a minute. 95 or 97% of the day, of our day, our thoughts, actions, words, language, behaviors are the same as the day before. So that doesn't mean they change and they're the same as the day before only. They've been the same since we were conditioned. We're on autopilot 95 or 97% of every day until we wake up. And then it takes reprogramming to not fall back into that. Having different thoughts, new visions, seeing things differently. Understanding that in order to even fucking do self-care, you gotta do things for other people. What the fuck is it made me so mad when I posted, I think it was on TikTok, it might be on here, I'm not sure, but I put self-care in the thing to see if I could bring up like a sticker that was about self-care, and almost everyone said me first. Put me first. I come first. Love me before anybody else, And yes, I love myself. Yes, I take care of myself. I try to. I struggle with eating and stuff. But it's on my mind and I work on it. But I would die for my kids. I would die for my part. I've spent 3 years putting my life on hold to help someone build their life up. And I didn't do it because I had to. I did it because that's unconditional love, right? Being woke is unconditional love. Source is unconditional love. So when you're in that place, when you're in the space that I just described, instead of the human space of 9 to 5, all the norm things, TV, everything's just as it was in 1980. 1990. If you're in that, your self-care is going to be about you. If you're in a new reality and you see things differently and your void is filled and your higher self is with you and you're healing your inner child and you're meditating and you're talking to source and you're figuring it all out, your self-care is going to be taking care of others who is you by the law of one. I really hope that makes sense. I told you it was going to be self-care outside of the box today. And then you can go home after work and, soak your feet, whatever, do your self-care. It's totally fine. There's just more levels. There's just more points of view. It's really indifferent. But I'm happier than I've been in my entire life. And a little bit of guilt seeps in when I say that. Because my kids aren't here with me to see it. But it's because I'm woke. And that if that doesn't tell you something about opening your mind, doing research, fucking journaling, shadow work, all the things, then I don't know what will. But I promise you, if you do this, if you want to take this journey, you're just going to be so fucking astounded. You're just going to be like looking around being like, okay, okay, my void is filled. I don't need to go to church and be scared and told I'm going to burn for eternity if I sin. Because I now know what's real. The moment I heard my first, I think it was a podcast on awakening, my void was filled. Like the moment. We'll have to have Randon come on and talk about it because we were in bed. I don't think I'd even moved in. I was just staying the night. And he put on Matías de Stefano. I'd never heard of him. And I sat up in bed and I said, "Who is that?" And he said, "I don't know, he's a guy I've been watching. It's really interesting, And I said, "He's right." And he was like, "What?" And I said, the things he's saying, he's right. I had never heard anything so true in my life. And being raised Christian, and then my boyfriend being Catholic, and all of the yucky, religious stuff never filled that void that the interpretation of the Bible says will fill it. Just listening to Matías for, I don't know how long, maybe we had been listening to him for 15 minutes. I was like, I know the truth. And I don't claim to be, someone who's perfect at reading things, but I can tell when people are telling the truth. And I can. And I can confidently say, I'm not wrong. Most of the time I keep it to myself because what's the fucking point? They're lying for a reason and whatever. But if you want to really be happy and really experience what your experience on this earth is supposed to be, you should hit me up. And I can point you into some directions of some of my videos, some other videos. Just having the weight of what the world was to me lifted is enough for me, besides all the other amazing things. But just not living under being afraid to die someday and not knowing what's going to happen after I die and if I'm going to burn in hell because I stopped going to church and all of those thoughts and worries, or I don't have enough clothes, my clothes aren't name brand, all the things, I'm not pretty, I'm not this, I'm, all the things that we feel as human, those go away. They do. And grief is separate from being woke. Grief is a very human attachment to another spirit. And it's hard, woke or not. But I know Colette's okay. I'm not sitting here wondering if she made it to heaven. I know she's okay. She's on her next adventure. And when I die, I'm going to be on to my next adventure. And I would love, when I die, to sit at that table with my soul family and be able to watch my life and know that it took me so long and so much tragedy that I signed up for. But I got it. I got it. And I catch the lessons and I catch the tests and I pass them. And I do my best, you know. I do my best. I'm not perfect, you know. It doesn't change that you're not a human still, obviously. Our bodies, our human bodies are our vessels. It's its own universe, you know. That's why they say if you understand your full biology, you understand the full cosmos. You know, we're just a little cell in another universe, and all of our cells are us in our universe. And so, you know, I went off on things. I always do. You guys should expect that of me by now. This is TikTok, or this is YouTube though, so some of you guys might think I'm a little bit off, but I'm not. Like I'm really gonna start talking to you guys again about chakra work, because I really need to balance my root chakra again. It's kind of a constant, you know, keep up. You know, my complicated grief lasted nearly a year. And like I said earlier, you know, I thought I was going to have to be hospitalized. But if I can get my chakras into alignment, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be okay. You know, I'm not going to be in fight or flight or survival mode anymore. And I can take things that upset me or people that hurt me, and I can apologize to them for viewing them the way I view them. You know, it's such a higher quality of an experience. Such a higher quality of an experience. You know, and it's funny, I've known what my purpose was since Poppy died. And when you become woke, a lot of people find their purpose. And I almost wonder if I had an awakening back then, but it wasn't, you know, anything that I knew about. You know, we didn't spend time watching TV or anything. I was so busy working, but you know, I wasn't watching YouTube. I wasn't learning about it. But and Randon too, you know, a lot of the ways that we think and did think even before, were way further outside of the box than the Kardashians. I shouldn't say that. You know, everybody's experience it's indifferent. Like I said, you're either gonna figure out that self-care is taking care of others, and all the other things that you're gonna figure out, or you're gonna come back, and that's okay. You know, hopefully it's okay. Hopefully you're born into a wonderful family, and you know, I would hope I'd be born into an alien family and experience something completely different, which I'm sure I have. You know, I just don't know. I don't remember. I'm gonna start taking some classes from Matthias actually about remembering. He's teaching how to bring up memories of past lives, and I've been thinking about doing it for a long time. Well, since Colette died, because my mindset got to, what did I do? What did I do so bad that I signed a contract saying, okay, I'm ready to go experience the death of 3 children, of my own children, and be abused and tormented and sexually assaulted and. So I've been wanting to know, you know, and I hope that it works, you know. I hope it works out. I would love to know what kind of a monster I was. You know, they say sometimes if you are abused in this life, it's because you abused in another life. And so when you go up with your soul family, you want to experience the other side of it. because that's the whole goal for Source, is to experience every possible experience there is to experience. And that's one of the things I love so much about Randon. You know, we have such different points of views. It's like living two different experiences. You know, I'm like, da 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 da, and he's like, but da 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 da. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a whole different thing. Like, you just made up a whole different reality. But it's not a whole different reality, it's his reality. You know, and mine's mine. But we share it with each other, and it's really cool. It's really cool to be able to have different experiences as one human, you know. And that's what Source is doing. He's having a bazillion experiences. But anyways, I'm going to get off here. I'm glad I did this. You know, I'm going to keep doing it and hope the numbers rise and people start moving over to YouTube instead of TikTok. Until I can at least get it fixed, and then I'll still do both. But for now, I'm going to start going hard on YouTube. And sharing what I believe in. And that is today, that self-care means taking care of someone else. That's what I think. That's my point of view. That's my experience. That's my feelings. I would love to know your feelings and point of view in the comments when this is done, however it works. It will be in my, what's it called? My playlist of lives. It'll just be under lives. So thank you for those couple of you who did join me today. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing this until there's enough people where I can get feedback. I want to know your experiences and your thoughts on things. I don't want to just talk at you. So I'll be working on that. Subscriptions on here, I need to do a post on that too. So yeah, I'll do a post on that later. I'm going to go work on my book until I pick up my little one from school, and I hope you guys have a wonderful fucking day. And please, for Colette, don't forget to smile beautiful. And for Holly, don't forget to go out of your way for someone today who is less fortunate. And for Poppy, don't forget to make that sacrifice. You know, make that sacrifice for the better for someone else. Yeah. And for Ozzy and all my grandkids and for Jill and everybody in my family, go spend time with your grandparents if they're still here. Go spend time with your parents if they're still here. Go spend time with people you love and start trying to look at people in a different light. Because all you're doing is looking at yourself. And then how can you do self-care? If you're looking at yourself and you hate yourself, you know? All right, peace out, homies. Have a good day. I'll be back. I'm going to do this every fucking day on YouTube because TikTok, right now. See you later, guys.